Morning, health students. It's kind of an interesting lesson here, but I've got a fun assignment at the end of it, and you'll see that as attached here today that your assignment is going to be to interview. It doesn't have to be your parents. It can be anybody that you know that has been married or is still married. Just a couple of good questions, but that assignment you'll see in there, kind of an interesting opportunity for you to learn a little bit about what it's like to be married and possibly be a parent just by asking a few simple questions to. And if you want it to be your parents, it can be your parents. If you want to be grandma and grandpa or aunt and uncle, anybody that's been married or is currently married. Okay, so we're talking about adulthood, marriage, and parenting. We'll see how much of parenting we get into here. I've only got 15 minutes that I can talk here, so we'll see how far into that we get here. If I don't get to the parenting section, obviously it's expected for you to just go ahead and read through that portion of the PowerPoint. But we'll see how much time, how much I get through within the 15 minutes that I've got here with my screencast-o-matic. So during adulthood, individuals may choose to get married and may choose to become parents. Some choose to marry, some choose not to, some choose to have kids, some choose not to, and some, like myself, wanted to be parents, but we're not blessed with that opportunity. So maturing physically and emotionally, that's part of becoming an adult. Adulthood is reached when both physical maturity and emotional maturity are achieved. Relationships with peers, family, friends can have positive effect on a person's physical and emotional health as they start to mature. Most people reach physical maturity in late adolescence and in their early 20s. So most people are going to get into that, yeah, their bodies are ready to be adults. They seem like they're grown up, but realistically speaking, physical maturity happens before the mental and emotional maturity. We talked a lot about that when we had our abstinence lecture a month ago. Physical maturity happens first, and that emotional maturity is something that starts to come in as you start to get closer to that cognitive development in those mid-20s years.
Physical maturity, the state at which the physical body and all of its organs are fully developed.
Okay, to be an adult, you also need to attain emotional maturity, and that's like we talked about just a second ago. That's takes a little bit more time, and it also takes life experience as well too. So somebody may say, "Well, I'm 20 years old. My body is physically where it's going to be through my adult years, but emotionally, lots of times you haven't experienced the life experiences to be able to know how to deal with lots of different emotional situations." So emotional maturity really is a big part of developing into being an adult or maturing.
Emotional maturity, the state at which the mental and emotional capabilities of an individual are fully developed.
And you can see here people who are emotionally mature have figured out different things in their life that are positive values and goals. They've had the ability to give and receive love. They've got the ability to face reality and deal with it. They've got the capacity to learn from life experiences like we just talked about. So these are four areas that really you have to have had a really good experience in all of these areas, or have had some experience in all of these areas in order to be considered emotionally mature. In stages of adulthood, there's three major stages that make up your adult years. Each stage of adulthood can be characterized by its own accomplishments and is associated with a goal that involves a person's relationship with other people. So the young adulthood, the span of that is between the ages of 19 and 40, so I'm just bumping into the next level. But the span, like I said, 19 to 40 years of age, the goal is to develop intimacy through close relationships, whether that be with a spouse, with family members, with people that you consider close to you in your life. Okay, mid-adulthood, which is the area that I fall into, from ages 40 to 65 years of age, the goal is to develop a sense of having contributed to society. So at this point in time, especially for me being on the early end of that, trying to find your place in society and that you're able to give back and be productive in that portion of society. And that's up to even the age of 65 when people are getting close to those years of retirement, and maybe their kids are graduating from college. People are becoming grandparents at that point in time, lots of times. So that's mid-adulthood. Late adulthood, the span of that is from age 65, or that retirement year, until the years that people start to get closer to the end of their life. Okay, and they're at that point in time are wanting to feel satisfied with his or her life. They want to feel like their legacy has been passed on, that their purpose was to, give back to community, give back to the world, develop family, kids, grandkids, and be proud of that sense, and be satisfied. Okay? Some people choose in any portion of that adulthood to make the commitment to get married. We'll talk about that, and hopefully you got to have a good experience of learning from your parents or whoever you choose to interview for your marriage interview. You get a little bit of a sense of some of not only the challenges, but some of the good portions of it too. So married couples share togetherness and support each other in hard times as well as in good times. Okay, deciding to marry, the decision to make the commitment to marry is only one step in the success of a marriage. So the idea of marriage is that you're signing this piece of paper. Some people go to the courthouse to do that. Some people do that in a church. Some people do it through somebody that's just an ordained minister that may have gotten a license on the internet. But in any sense of the word marriage, in any one of those situations, that commitment is said to be the promise and pledge of lifelong. And no point is a marriage ever been supposed to, in any sense of it's supposed to have been, well, until we don't like each other anymore. It's supposed to be for life. So how well a person adjusts to marriage and to a spouse depends on these factors. They got to be able to communicate. Are they at the level of emotional maturity that they need to be at in order to share their life with somebody else? And their values and interests. Really, this is one of the things that you're going to figure out real quickly when you do that marriage interview. Is the first one that you see there is going to be probably the one that just about everybody answers. Is communication, communication, and communication is one of the biggest things that people talk about in marriage. Most important part. But both people need to be emotionally mature enough to share their life with somebody else. They have to be ready to adjust some of their beliefs and feelings. So that's to the person that they're committed to, so that they can find that happy medium between the two. But also, at that point in time, before making the commitment to get married to somebody else, hopefully you know them well enough so that you've connected with somebody that shares your values and interests, so that you don't have to change who you are. I mean, there's some things that you're going to have to change throughout the course of your life in order to make the person you plan to share your life with happy. But you don't want to change everything about yourself. So make sure before you get into a marriage that you're getting into a marriage with somebody that shares the same interests and beliefs as you. Issues that can cause problems in a marriage. Differences in spending and saving habits. Money is a big issue in marriages, and that's one of the biggest things. Besides your personal values, I would say you start to figure out before you commit to getting married. The other thing is decisions that you make in regards to children. Okay, so spending habits, big thing. Okay, also saving habits, conflicting loyalties in family and friends, lack of communication, lack of intimacy, jealousy or infidelity or lack of attention, all falls into that area where people begin to get jealous of other people. They start to throw out accusations. Maybe somebody isn't faithful in their marriage, or maybe they're not giving much needed attention to their spouse, and that attention needs to be daily. Decisions about having kids and how to raise kids, that's another thing that you'll hear about when interviewing somebody that's been married and has had kids, is that's something that, again, before deciding to get married, you better, before you get into that relationship with somebody, have the conversation about how do kids want to be raised. How do you want your kids to do certain things? Do you want them to be active in the community? Do you want them to be active in religion? Do you want them? There's so many different things that come into, and how do you raise these kids? Or is it going to be a strict household? Is it going to be laid back? This is something that you want to have a discussion about before you get married and before you have kids. Just needed to check how much time. I got about 4 minutes left before this goes out. So getting into the parenthood part of it, I'm going to have you read that on your own. I'm not going to be able to get to all of that. But resolving conflict in marriage, good communication and conflict resolution skills. That's why we talk about this in our health class. Not only is it good in everyday life, but that's going to be the biggest key to being able to be successful in a marriage. Okay, having those two skills can help reduce the impact of conflict in a marriage. There's always conflict in a marriage. You never agree on absolutely everything. Sometimes couples need counseling to resolve marital conflict, and sometimes you get to the point where you have your beliefs and your thoughts, and your spouse has beliefs and thoughts that are theirs, and sometimes you need a mediator. Sometimes you just need to be brought to a sense of, okay, well, somebody maybe comes in and helps you come to a decision. Sometimes it's difficult to step away from your own thoughts. And that happens in every single marriage. It's not just ones that are dysfunctional. Financial concerns are a common problem that marriage couples face. And like I said before, you make sure that before you get married, you're getting into that situation knowing what habits the other person has when it comes to spending, when it comes to saving, knowing what kind of debt they have before you get into it, because once you marry, that debt becomes part of your responsibility or how you accrue debt. In most states, it's illegal for a couple to marry before the age of 18 without parental permission. I would think that that would be a very good idea anyways. There's very few people that are ready to marry before age 18. In fact, that's really pushing the limits, because we talk about when are you actually ready mentally as an adult. And we talk about age 24, 25, 26 is when people are cognitively developed. Well, at age 18, you have not had very much life experience, nor are you cognitively fully developed. Okay, so there's laws there for a reason. As well as meeting legal requirements, marriage is a step that requires emotional maturity, and that's the portion we talked about. Okay, I'm going to let you get into the parenthood part of it. I don't have enough time on my 15-minute video, but this would have been an area where I would have talked about children a little bit more had we had some time in class. But I hope distance learning is going okay with you. Remember that you can always call me on my Google Voice number. If you're looking for that Google Voice number, it is on Updates and Schoology. You can also find that in the distance learning page that I have on Schoology. That's right above the Week 9 folder, so you can see that in there as well. Hope everything's going okay for you guys. I miss you. Take care.